What's up, everybody? Same channel, new year. That's about it. So I attempted, if you guys saw last night, attempted to bite off more than I could chew. Didn't realize how bad Bertha was, but for those of you guys asking about an update, this is the bottom of the bed. You can see I stripped off the old insulation I had on here. Took the there's dog hair stuck to that. Oh, that's great. I was going to clean off all the old adhesive from the foam tape, but it's really not going to matter when I put the new stuff on. So, found out the thermistor was fried, so I'm going to run a new thermistor on here. Already desoldered and cleaned off the pads for the heated bed, tested resistance, we're all good. And I had Aaron bring me in some 12 gauge silicone from the shop. And we're going to go ahead and get that all wired up. So basically, once I get all this like boring stuff of putting the tape on, putting the thermistor under here, running the wires, we'll do that. I also put eccentric nuts on the y-axis so I can actually tighten it up. So it's solid now. Oh no! I dropped my cable clips. I printed some 2020 cable clips here, and I put the face down. So this is the side you see this on our textured plate. So that'll help with the cable routing. I'm actually going to start another batch. But the bed is all solid now. I put eccentrics on the outer here. And I just happen to have eccentric nuts that were the same height as the spacers I use. So that's good. I've got the power supply here. We've got the 14 gauge wires. These are actually the ones that were used on the bed. And these are going to power the control board. And I've got 12 gauges coming off here to power the bed. They're all crimped. I have to screw everything in, but everything's crimped on here. Bolt that in, and then that's our power. So Bertha's looking good. I got to run to Menards after this stream and pick up some insulation tape. I like to use the pipe wrap. And those of you wondering about insulating your beds, the Menards SKU, because this I pulled up the data sheet on this stuff. It's Frost King 15-inch. They're like $4.88 a roll. 2 inches by 15 feet long for $4.88 a roll, and they're rated up to 150C. So perfect for the bed. The SKU is 6792708. I don't think this has my address on it. No, it doesn't. So, but there we go. That's what's going to be going on the bottom of the bed. I've used different pipe wraps and stuff on printer beds. That's what was actually on this, but this stuff is actually rated by the manufacturer up to 150 degrees Celsius. So perfect for this printer. I don't print anything higher than 80 on here. So yeah, that's what'll be happening. I got to go, like I said, I did a pickup so I can just be in and out, and I'm going to go grab that and get the wiring done. I got the bed squared away. I'm glad I didn't do it on stream because it's just been a lot of like, okay, let's figure out what's broken and what's not and what I need to optimize. So it's looking good though. Everything's coming together, which I do like. And before anybody harasses me, there we go. I just sent the command to it. So anyways, welcome to the Ask Tim stream. The first part of the stream is me rambling about whatever comes to mind. In this case right now, the current project is my AlphaWise U10. I also set up the belt linking system at the top. We had it installed before, but one of the pulleys broke. So new pulleys, align the Z-axis and all that stuff. So 3D Print Line was asking that tape is insulation or used to hold the insulation. No, it is insulation. It's adhesive. So it's an 1/8 inch thick foam with a foil backing. And then on the foam side that you stick to the bottom of the bed is adhesive lines. So it's adhesive foam and then the foil backing. So it's really nice for wrapping the bottom of your bed, which will help hold the heat in and help it get up to temp quicker because it's not losing heat to the environment that it's in. So I would highly recommend that stuff. Let's see here. Someone's asking about the Sunloo, which I think it's Benchy's. It's Benchy's right here, actually. Let's see here. So post your question in the chat. This is the Benchy that came off of it. My brother Doug, aka Top Hat Waffle, he has it, and he's been running off many prints on it, but he's been pretty happy with it. If Doug, if you've got some pictures of prints that you've done off it, if you post them in one of the Discords that I'm in, or the Livestream's Discord on the TH3 server, I would be glad to show off your prints, because I know you've been running it, and it's been running well. So, it's probably one of the few printers he has that actually works, because I built it for him. I kid. Doug has at least one other printer that prints. So, let's see what we have in the chat. Let's see here. Let's see. Luke. Oh, wait, I have the chat pop out here, so I should have more than just what's in Streamlabs. Oh, nope, they're in here. Luke is saying, what is the best printer with 2Z motors under 1,000? I want something that's stable in quality, print, and easy use. I have an under 3 V2 and a BIQU B1. I would probably say the CR10 V2. That's a solid option, or the V3 if you want direct drive. The reality is, no matter what printer you get, you're always going to have some kind of maintenance involved and possibly tuning. But in my opinion, the CR10 V2 and the V3, while they do have slightly less upgrade paths because the board is a completely different design from their old one, so you can't put like an SKR board or an MKS board or an easy board in it, as in like a drop-in. I still think they're a good bang for the buck, and they do come with the Trinamic silent drivers already on there. So I would say like the CR10 V3, or if you want direct drive, or the V2 if you want Bowden, whatever you want to call it. And then I would highly recommend picking them up from tinymachines3d.com. I'm not affiliated with them, but I do know the owner because I purchased my first CR10 from him. His name's Chris, and they run a really good operation there. So basically, if you want a Chinese printer, you will pay a little bit more, but a Chinese printer with actual QC, actual support from a company in the US, highly recommend Tiny Machines 3D. I really like them. They do good work there. So, yeah, as for the Sunlu S8, my whole thing is I think for what you pay for it, you get a lot of printer for the money. You just have to upgrade the layer cooling. I don't think there's any way around that. You have to upgrade the layer cooling. So Doug posted this in chat since he has my S8, because I didn't need it and he was looking at getting another machine, so it just worked out. And this is something he printed. These look like some sort of like carabiner clip things. But yeah, those look pretty good. I do think you need to tune your slicer just a little bit. You might be under extruding just a little, but all in all, yeah, the print quality is actually really good. You can see there's no indications of like the overheating that you saw with the stock layer fan setup on that machine. Like I said, that Sunlu S8, it's hard to argue with the price, even knowing that you're going to have to change the layer fan setup. But I think for a secondary printer, if you already have a printer and you can print the layer fan mount and you're just looking for another machine, maybe a larger one, maybe a second printer, or third or fourth or fifth or whatever, we all know how that goes. You don't have one printer for long. You always have at least two usually. But I do think it is a good bang for the buck for what you get, as long as you know what's going into it. And that's what I try to do here on the channel, is let you guys know what what you're getting into when you pick up a machine. Like if it is even worth picking up to dick around with, because a lot of machines that are out there, they just aren't worth picking up to mess with when there's a lot of other good options on there. But I think that Sunlu S8 falls in the category of the price is really low for what you get, and you can, as long as you know going into it, you're going to have to spend like 20, 30 bucks to change the hot end fan cooling setup, you know, new layer fan, new printed mount. I do think it's a good value because you're still around the 250 mark or less. So, but yeah, let's see here. Let's see what else. So Derek is saying, hey, I have a request. Please don't do Bertha without a stream. The hardware part is also fun. I do agree. So I'm going to try to figure out something with Bertha where I get the boring stuff done, and I'll show you guys what I did like I did here with just an update on the bed and stuff. But there's just a lot of stuff that I'd rather just do offline, because trying to stream it and show you everything is going to take me a lot longer than just doing it. And it's stuff that could easily be like, this is what I did here, and then we're going to go through hooking everything up. So I kind of want to get everything prepped and do that. But it's Bertha's a project, and like I said yesterday, I definitely not bit off more than I can chew, but underestimated exactly how much work this machine went. And basically, what I'm doing is just reusing the frame, the motors, you know, making some upgrades like putting eccentrics on the bed, which wasn't that hard. I just got a drill bit the same diameter as the eccentric, drilled it out, reamed it out. These were the bed plate is actually aluminum, and I actually used our little deburring tool. We carry these in the shop. We carry the tool and the blades. It comes with a blade, but we also have 5-packs, and you can store your extra blades in the rear. I don't have any in here because they're in my drawer, but this is really nice, and this actually worked really well to remount the aluminum holes, because then when I drilled them, I had burrs, and I just literally took it in there, went like this, and it got rid of them. It was really nice. But I usually use this for deburring prints or taking elephant's foots off prints. They're a really nice tool to have around. So I'll plug our own stuff here. These are really handy to have. If you don't have one, I highly recommend them. They're like $10. Highly recommend it. If you're putting an order in, throw this in your cart. They're great. So let's see here. What else do we have in the questions here? I see Bill, I did get your email about design work, but we're good right now. I just wanted to throw that out there so you don't think I'm ignoring you. But if we do, I do have your information. I forwarded it to Aaron, so if we get overwhelmed with some design work and we need to outsource, we will let you know. Doug used to help us out with some of our design work, but he's too busy for me now. But that's okay. That means he's doing his own thing, and I'm proud of him. All right, let's see. Dan Adams. Hey, Tim, just want to let you know I got my signed order X1 running nonstop since I upgraded to your screen, the Easy ABL setup. Thank you. I'm glad you're liking it. Aaron actually stole the X1 for his personal desk printer after I did all the upgrades to it. It sat in the farm for a while, and then he's like, oh, it's actually running great now. I'm going to take that. So he's been running that thing nonstop. I think for the last 2 weeks, he's doing some R2-D2 parts for a customer of ours, and that thing's just been chewing up the plastic. Like, not in a bad way, like just printing a ton of plastic. So, let's see here. RS Master, first question, what's the answer to all the questions in the world? I think it's 42. That's what the internet says. Oh, there we go, chat jumped. I was waiting for that to happen. It jumped. Let me scroll back up. There we are. Fight me IRL. I like your username. Happy New Year. I was wondering with an Easy ABL if it's possible to probe just the 4 corners instead of doing a 3x3 probe. No, you have to do the grid because it's not really the same thing, and you want to have that 3x3 probe. So you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because it does the mesh compensation. I'm sure there's a way to possibly do it with coding that type of feature, but as far as I know, Marlin, in terms of an ABL probe, it'll do the Z home if it's the firmware setup, which ours are, and then it'll take the mesh, and that's how it works. So, Dominic, do I sell LED cubes? No. You guys in the damn LED cube, I do like it, but just search, like, I think this is an 8x8. Yeah. Just search 8x8x8 LED cube on Amazon or AliExpress. They're like $20 to $50. There are some that are higher priced, but I just want to say, like, that took me like 8 to 9 hours to build. So it's a DIY kit, and the directions are non-existent. It was very much I was hunting around for things. So if you want something to occupy at least 8 to 9 hours of your time, they're great. JDCCC asks, how do you determine which thermistor from the pull-up menu for 5-stack 3-piece upgrade HT1? I have no idea. I'm assuming that's a type of thermistor they sell. Usually, I'm going to search that. Usually most manufacturers, like we do anyways, if when they sell thermistors, they'll tell you what Marlin definition that is used for that thermistor, because it needs a temp table. And I'm actually looking up, I Googled that exact thing, the FISEC 3-piece upgrade. And if you look at the product photos, they tell you that it can use 1, 11, or 13. I would probably not use 11 because that's like a beta temp table. I would probably set it up as number 1 looking at that. So I'm just going to show you what I'm looking at here. Let me move my OBS over to the other screen here. Give me 1 second. I'm just rearranging windows. So this is what he is asking about, these are supposedly high temp. The thing is, NTC 100Ks, they start to degrade around like 290 and they stop reading well. So I would be very skeptical of the accuracy of this past that temp. But you can see here, they say Marlin settings reference 1, 11, or 13. 11 is like a beta temp table. I've used this temp table before. It's way off. I would probably say go with 1 or maybe even 13, because this says even here up to 300 C hot, and try it and see. I own a thermocouple that I'll use to qualify how accurate a temperature or a thermistor is, and a thermocouple is usually this little metal looking bead on the end of 2 wires. Like I got them with my Klein meters, and I'll actually put that onto the heater block as close as I can to the stock thermistor and see what that reads versus what the LCD reads, and that'll usually tell me if I'm using the right temp table or not. And I tested it room temp, I tested it like 100, and I tested it like 240, and then see what I get. And if your temperature's within a couple of degrees, like 2 to 3 degrees, then your temp table's probably fine. If not, then try a different temp table. So that's what that Marlin setting is. The number for your thermistor tells it what temp table to use. And that temp table is literally a table of values that, okay, at this resistance, this is this temperature. At that resistance, it's that temperature, that kind of thing. And those are generated by people. But most 100K NTC type thermistors, which is what like probably 90+% of printers use, usually will use the number 1 thermistor definition. Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh no, we're starting this already. We cannot have that. I gotta squish that. Maybe I need to get up and walk around. Whew. Let's see here. We already showed Top at Waffles picture. Question: you talk about seasoning nozzles. Can you seasoning nozzles? I think you mean heat breaks. Can you season a titanium heat break? Yes, it's a same process. Just use an oiler for a while, and eventually you'll get a nice coating inside that, kind of like you get with like a cast iron pan. I've used it on both. Steel heat breaks and titanium. It works great. Let's see here. So Frank Curry's asking, if you were looking for a 300 by 300 tinker with and customize, would you start with a Sunnu S8 or ANET A8 Plus? Absolutely the Sunnu S8, not the A8 Plus. The A8 Plus is not bad if you can get it cheap enough, but if it was about the same price, I'd go with the Sunnu S8, hands down. Blasto's asking, if you had to get a printer that's more than 300 by 300, what would you get? I kind of want a big boy printer to print decks in one piece. I would say probably more than 300 by 300. Ender 5 Plus is a solid buy. If you can still get the CR10 S4 and S5, the S4 I think is a better buy than the S5, because the S5, if you get that, you're going to have to put a Kinovo heater on it if you want to actually utilize a full bed, because if you guys don't know, the S5, even though it's advertised as having a heated bed, you have a 508 by 508 millimeter plate with a 310 by 310 heater. It's literally a CR10 bed bolted to the bottom of that plate in the center of that 508 by 508. So you're actually only getting heat in the center of the bed. So what a lot of people do is they take that bed off and they put in what's called a Kinovo heating pad, which is AC powered, which is definitely a more advanced installation. But that's what you would do. I would highly recommend you do that if you're doing an S5, but the CR10 S4 is a decent machine. That's 400 by 400 by 500, or 400 by 400 by 400. I believe the Chiron, I haven't spent enough time with our Chiron because I've been messing with other machines, but that's also a bigger machine. I believe that's 400 by 400 by, I want to say it's 400 or 500. It's at least 400. Let's look it up. I want to say it's 500 on the Z height. No, it's less than that. It's 450. So 400 by 400 by 450. But I know a lot of people that like the Chiron. I just haven't spent enough time with it yet to be like, yes, buy it. There's where nerdy is cool is saying avoid the Chiron. Bad wiring, bad bed wiring. Somewhere I did see they were catching on fire. So yeah. I would say if like the Ender 5 Plus, which is a 350 by 350 by 400, if that'll fit your stuff, I would say go with the 5 Plus. That's been a pretty solid printer. I have that in my personal print farm. I've been very happy with it. But yeah. Jessica, you know, I know you posted this to troll, but I'm gonna answer your question anyway. She says the touchscreen on the printer on campus at my college only works if you lick your fingers before you use it, but that doesn't seem very hygienic. Do you have any tips? Try some moisturizer on your hands. Your hands are probably really dry, so if they're dry, the capacitive screen is not going to pick up your finger as well. Whereas if they're moist, get some lotion on those hands. Get them nice and moist. Moist. Let's see here. Is the MOSFET still needed when using an SSR for an AC bed? No, the SSR will replace a MOSFET. So your thing about an SSR, if we're talking a DC to AC one, which is usually what we're talking about 3D printers with SSRs or solid state relays. I would highly recommend getting rid of the external MOSFET because that SSR is basically acting like the MOSFET. There's no load being put on the printer's control board to drive the SSR. So take it out. Take it out. Yeah, Riley's the guy who did the Red Squirrel on the Sunlu S8. He did a good job with the cooling design. I like it. Topic Waffle, talking shit about my print. I'm just giving you constructive criticism or feedback, whatever you want to call it. Let's see here. Lori Crab, I have issues with bigger ASA prints fusing to the print bed glass. PEI, Easy Mat, increasing Z offset, using Vision Miner as a release layer and putting them in the freezer. Any suggestions? That's really odd because I've printed ASA on our Easy Mat. I've printed it on PEI. And I think, well, the other build sheets are basically like the same material as the Easy Mat. So I've not had issues with them bonding. Here's the thing. If you have, I know you said you increased the Z offset, but if you are still too close, what can happen is even if you put down a release layer, if the pressure between the nozzle and the build plate is too much, it could push the release layer out of the way or push through it into the bed. I would recommend trying to lower your print temperature. Also check to make sure you're actually using ASA because I've printed a lot of ASA. I've printed a ton of ABS and they both behave the same. That's really odd. I would try lowering your print temp for the first layer at the very least because the less molten the plastic is coming out of the nozzle, the less likely and less good, if that's the right word, it sounds weird, but the less the adhesion is because it's less molten. So I would probably say drop your print temp by like 10, 15 C, do a small print, just do a test print and see what it is. I've had very good luck with the Vision Miner. I use it on a lot of stuff here, and I don't have issues with it sticking down stuff too well. It does seem to release the parts when it cools. So hopefully something like some of those tips help. That's really weird. It sounds like PET G, honestly. You can also try speeding up your first layer too, because if it has less time between the pressure of the filament coming out of the nozzle in contact with the bed, that will also decrease adhesion. So if you run your printer slower, in theory, you should get better adhesion because it's got more time for the nozzle and the pressure of it coming out of there to push it onto the bed. Whereas if you're running faster, it's got less time to do that. Tripod's Garage asks me this all the time. Who is this guy I'm watching? I don't know, man. I question that. Who am I? Let's see here. Bertha is an experience. Yes, Bertha is an experience. Arden Phillips, looking to get an artillery genius doing M600 commands require firmware adjustment and wire changes, apparently. Yeah, I believe that's an artillery machine. The firmware would need to support the M600 commands. I do not own the Genius. I don't even know what board that has in it. I do know it has like a touch screen, but the firmware definitely needs to have the M600 command in it and be aware of it, because if you send a command to the printer, if the firmware doesn't have any code in it to process said command, then, you know, it's just going to ignore it and not do anything. But you definitely would need to update the firmware to support that command. So if you send M600, usually what that'll do is it'll initiate the filament change procedure. So if you do change filament from the screen while you're doing a print, that just sends an M600 command. If your filament sensor runs out, that sends an M600 command. If you send an M600 command over the serial console, then it does the same thing as all those other things. It just ties in and triggers the board to send that code. So that's really what happens if you guys think about when a filament sensor triggers, the board reads that pin change. It goes from, you know, low to high, high to low. There's a state change between the pin from, you know, triggered to open. And then the firmware then goes, okay, that pin changed, so I'm going to send M600 into the command queue, and then we're going to initiate the filament change procedure. That's what's happening on the back end. Same thing when you press change filament from the LCD. The LCD sends that command then to the queue of commands, which is M600. It does the same exact thing. That's why you have to have the change filament options or the advanced pause options in Marlin enabled for a filament sensor to work, because it's using those same routines. Let's see here. Isocraft says, let's see. Isocraft says, what is the difference between RepRap discount full graphics smart controller and CR10 stock display? I have a 221 board with 22A drivers and will not change display. What is the 221? That sounds familiar. I'm assuming that's a Creality. Oh, that's the 2560 with the silent drivers banged down there. You would want to use the, so if you have the 2-cable LCD, meaning you have EXP1 and EXP2, then you would use the RepRap discount full graphics smart controller. Okay, that'll tell it to use the pins on both headers. Now, if you have the, I have one sitting right here because I'm going to use one on Bertha. So if you have one of these newer screens where, if you see, we have EXP, we have 1, 2, and 3, okay? You can actually just connect it to 3. It depends on how you connect it. So this one cable connection, so if you have a LCD that only has the one cable, or you only have the one cable, you can still use it and define it as a CR10 stock display. And in Marlin, they have it set up so you can actually put the EXP3 into the EXP1. But instead of putting it in as the keyed position, okay, you rotate this around 180 and just force that sucker in. And that would be the CR10 stock display setting in the firmware. Now, if you have the dual cable, and there's no benefit of using one or the other. It's really preference. And what your LCD has. But if you have the 2-cable display like this, then this would be the RepRap discount full graphics smart controller, because we're using the 2-cable pins and the pinouts are different. So this 2 cables, EXP1 to EXP1, EXP2 to EXP2, that's the RepRap discount full graphics smart controller. That's a mouthful. That's what that is. But if you want to use a single cable, which would just be the EXP3, or if your LCD only has the single cable and it's a Creality one, you would do the CR10 stock display, and instead of putting it in with the keyed portion where it's supposed to go, right here, okay, so the keyed portion go where it's supposed to go, you would pull that out, rotate it 180, and just yeet it in there. It's not going to break anything. And that would be the CR10 stock display. Neither one works better than the other. It's just, are we using 2 cables or 1 cable? And setting those different options tells it what pins to light up and use on these headers. That's it. So hopefully that's helpful. That's one of the reasons why, because Creality has shipped LCDs. They started switching over to these where it's the universal one where it's got all 3. The older ones only had 1 and 2. That's why with the Easy Board, we have that adapter cable to go from these 2 plugs to the 1, because it changes all the pinout wiring. But I digress. Let's see here. Llama, I like the high-tech security system sleeping on the couch back there. Yeah, Clara. Clara. I love you. I love you. You can go back to sleep. It's okay. And the head should start going down. There we go. It's in sleep mode. Power saving. Donna Ryan, are you still using the chocolate printer or has it lost its novelty? Samantha hasn't used it. We played around with it when we had friends over. I printed an object on there just for fun. I mean, I've got it dialed in. It works great, but Samantha has not been using it. I haven't been using it. So, but anyways, there's where Nerdy is cool saying avoid the Chiron. I have seen a lot of safety issues with the Chiron, which I'm probably going to start working on that one towards the end of this month. But like I said, I've got some projects that I need this big Bertha working, so hence why I am working on it. Dan Adams has to run his son to the dentist. Oh, have fun with that. Dominic, let's see. GIDY Tech. My part cooling fan is not adjustable after installing a 12-volt fan before in a step-down converter. Yeah, so you cannot run a PWM signal, aka less than 0 on a PWM, or you can't run a buck converter. So it sounds like he's going from 24 volts on his board to a step-down converter from the fan output. So board, fan output to step down to 12-volt fan. You're on or off. That's it. If you feed that PWM signal into, and by feed PWM, I mean anything under 100% is going to be a PWM signal. You're probably going to burn that buck converter out. You should buy the correct voltage fan for your printer. Buck converters, and anybody telling you to put a buck converter on a layer fan has no idea what they're talking about, and you should not take advice from them. Buck converters are meant to take a stable, consistent voltage and step them down to another stable, consistent voltage, or step them up to a stable, consistent voltage. And sometimes you have buck converters that can go either way. They swing both ways, up or down. But buy the correct fan for your printer. We carry 12 and 24 volt fans. We carry 50-15 size and 12 and 24 volt that are dual ball bearing fans that'll last you a long time and they move a ton of air. And we also carry the 40-10 sizes. So the only time you can get away with using a buck converter is on a fan that is always on or on and off. No in between. You can't go from a buck converter. You can't use a buck converter on a fan that's a variable speed fan. You can use it on a fan that's always on, and that's fine. I don't recommend it because even I would forget like why I did that in the first place. I'd rather just use the right voltage fans, and that's also one more thing to fail. So if that buck converter fails, now the fan stops running. I don't want to put too many points of failure into my machine. So instead of just having the fan, then the fan connected right to power, then you got power, buck converter, fan. If that buck converter dies, the fan goes out. But anyways, yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Buy the correct fan, or like I said, you can use it, but you're only going to do 0-100. If you do in between, you're probably going to damage that buck converter because they're not designed to take a PWM input. They're just not. 3D printer, yeah, he got Vision Miner from the Joel giveaway. Never actually tried it. I love this stuff. Like, I genuinely love this stuff. I use it here on almost every one of my machines. I don't need it on my PLA machines, but I've explained it. I don't know if I've explained it here before, but I think about it as this. If I had a print that would have come off because it was a small part in small contact area, I think of the Vision Miner as like an insurance policy that I know it's not going to come off the bed no matter what. So SR says, how helpful are printed mods like bed braces and Hero Me for Ender, specifically my 5? The bed braces are a good upgrade. Aaron actually put those on ours in the farm, and it does help with the bed sagging. The Hero Me will give you better cooling. It will. Specifically when you use like a 50-15 fan. The stock fan on the Hero Me, even though they support it, and I think he even has a note in there, they don't move enough air to be that much of a difference over the stock cooling. So if you're going to go with an aftermarket cooling on any printer, my preference is the 5015 fans. A lot of aftermarket mounts that people design that, you know, are out there for all these machines, the 5015 is kind of the de facto standard because it's a good balance between size and airflow. So, but let's see here. Yeah, in short, if you got the time, go for it. Go for it. And I would recommend for the Hero Me, print extra parts in case you break one. If that's your only printer especially, print extra parts if you break one while you're installing it. You have a backup. Or have some adhesive on hand. Alan Kilgore says, is there an easy way to remove the older damaged PEI sheet from a spring steel? The easiest way, there's not like a, this is quick to do. The easiest way is to put it on your printer bed, heat it up to about 50 to 60 C. That'll help make the adhesive a little more malleable. And then take it off slowly. Then once the actual sheet is off with most of the adhesive, I'll actually take the sheet and like, let's say this is the top layer, okay? And I'm peeling it off, okay? So here's my PEI sheet. It's got adhesive. I got some random adhesive stuck on the bed. I'll take the part that already has adhesive on the sheet and stick it down like this. And usually that will pull the adhesive off the bed. And then once I do that, the final step is I'll use acetone. Pour a little bit on the adhesive spots, let it sit in for a sec, and do this in a well-ventilated area because acetone, if you're sensitive to fumes, can be really nasty. Let it sit there for a sec and then wipe it down with a paper towel. I've also used like scrapers. If you just kind of, you know, work at it, just like that, it'll usually come off, and then you wipe it down with alcohol. So there's not a quick and easy, you know, way to do it, but there is an easier way. Another option, if you don't have acetone, just so you guys know, nail polish remover usually has acetone in it. So you can always use nail polish remover in a pinch, but it has to be the acetone based one. But you can also, and most people have this laying around the house, is WD-40. WD-40 is really good at dissolving adhesive. And the only thing with WD-40 is that if you use it, you have to make sure you clean that with alcohol or something else that will get rid of that oily film that WD-40 will leave, because it's going to affect adhesion of the next thing you put on there. So my preferred method is acetone. You can pick it up at the drugstore or, you know, Home Depot or Lowe's or hardware store. Go to CVS, go into the nail polish section. They usually have acetone. Like I literally have here. This is the acetone I use, and it's literally nail polish remover. But you can see right here, 100% pure acetone. So, little pro tip: if you need acetone, go hit up the local drugstore. Go to the nail polish section, whatever it's called, the beauty section. I don't know, I'm a guy, I don't go there. But I order this online. You can follow this Onyx Professional brand I've been using for a number of years. It works great. This is like $5. This is a good chemical to keep on hand if you have a 3D printer. I really need to make a list of like what kind of stuff I just keep on hand. Acetone's one of them. Isopropyl alcohol is another one. And this is all relatively inexpensive stuff. Like you can get pretty well stocked up on different like inexpensive tools and chemicals to have on hand for around $100, and then you just have it. So yeah, just ask the wife if she's out shopping and be like, hey, can you pick me up some nail polish remover? Make sure it has the acetone in it. And try to find the one that says 100% pure acetone. I saw Rich making a comment about that. Let's see here. Yeah, Michael called me out. Well, buck converters will go down. Buck boost goes both ways. Yeah, people use the term interchangeably, but yes, you're technically correct. Boost converter, buck converter. Yeah. All right, let's see here. I think Robert is the next one. Yeah, Robert Thomason. Is there any benefit to upgrade my CR10 S4 screen? I have an easy board. Nope, stock screen is fine. The newer screens are just a different revision. They all do the same thing. They all do the same thing. Don't waste your money. I mean, if you got a couple Creality machines too, having a spare screen on hand is not a bad idea. I have had a couple fail on me. So let's add that to the list of the parts. If you find a screen that works with most of your printers, keep one on hand. Sean Youth, I forgot to reduce the VRF on my Bondtech Pancake stepper after a firmware update. The stepper started installing, clicking after a few hours of printing. I reduced it. Would that cause permanent damage? I'm going to say likely not. Most stepper motors, even the cheap ones, can handle up to 100 C. I would let it cool down and then see. It's probably fine. It is possible there could be damage, but I've also ran stepper motors hotter because I overlooked some setting or forgot to adjust my VREF. And I've not had them die on me. So you're probably fine. Let it cool down. Talk about Waffle. I was thinking of running like 412 to 25 or 412 to 5 volt 3 amp buck converters off a Meanwell for RPIs. Thoughts? Just get a 5 volt Meanwell if you're going to do that. Get a 5 volt Meanwell and a bunch of good quality USB-C / micro USB things and just put it on a 5 volt Meanwell. They make a 350 watt Meanwell for 5 volts. I think they make them up to 1,000 watts too. Don't even mess with the buck converters. If you're going to do that, I mean, that's kind of a good idea. Or I'm pretty sure you have PoE switches. You could do the PoE splitters. But if you want to run your Pis off of multiple ones, I would probably say just go like, they make little 100 watt Meanwells. Let me see what I can find you a part number here. Because they're pretty cheap. Let's see here. Yeah, so they got the LRS-50-5. They're like 12 bucks. Those are 5 volt, 10 amp output. There's the LRS-100-5, which is 19 bucks. And that's a 5 volt, 18 amp output. Yeah, that's what I would, just don't, you're going to spend too much time. Just buy, here, even, well, I don't like buying Meanwells off Amazon. But it's going to be probably the cheapest way to do it. Just validate the serial number on their Meanwell site, because I have got fake Meanwells from Amazon. Because they're third-party sellers. They're people that'll do it. But I did order a couple like Meanwells that we don't carry, like for projects. Like I ordered a 12 volt, 100 watt one, and it was genuine. So just order yourself a little Meanwell, boy. Just do that. There you go. Or do PoE splitters. I love running our Pis off PoE splitters. Let's see here. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Michael. I didn't even think of that. So Michael's saying that typically you use a buck converter on a MOSFET-controlled PWM fan because it tends to modulate the ground, which is true. Most fan outputs, they modulate the ground. So what he's saying is, since the ground is all continuous, okay, throughout the machine, typically on a buck converter, the ground passes right through. So if your MOSFET's modulating the ground, you can have the buck converter feed the positive line of the fan and the MOSFET feed the negative line of the fan, so you can still get PWM. I don't know the implications of doing that. It sounds like it could be something you could do, but I would also just say buy the correct voltage fans for your printers and just be done with it, because like I said, you're adding one more point of failure into it. Oh god, chat jumped again. Here we go. Since you mentioned Vision Miner, how difficult is it to remove a print? I actually pulled these off. It's not. Just let it cool down. It releases. I don't think it's any more difficult to do than a standard machine. I also use the flex plates, like these guys. These are what I use. And it works great with them. Let's see here. But yeah, I like it. Sorry, I'm trying to read chat and talk at the same time. It's not going too well. Donovan said, will the Hero Me on Ender 5 reduce the Y volume? I'm not sure because I haven't put an Ender 5 on, or, we're going to stop that. I have not put a Hero Me on Ender 5 yet. Nicholas says he's trying to adjust his easy ABL with a small screwdriver. When I turn it to go closer, it will stay on when it's nowhere near the bed. Turn it down counterclockwise till the light shuts off. It might be quite a few turns. It's like a 50 turn pot or something, so you might have to really turn it down. Let's see. 3D Print Law says orange cleaner for ghoul removal. It's not as fast as acetone, but not as nasty. That's a good. That's a good point. Yeah, you can clean your bed with brake cleaner if you can't find alcohol. Brake cleaner is actually pretty good at cleaning things off. Just be careful with it. Let's see here. Dominic Versetto, Onyx Acetone. This stuff is $3.99 on Amazon. That's good to know. 3D Print Llama says Walmart has 90% isopropyl again. 2 32-ounce bottles for $5. That's good. Go order some IPA, guys. Keep it on hand. I'm pretty sure it has technically a shelf life. But I have bottles that are many years old that still work great. So let's see here. Ram Design's asking about the Tough Tube rating. The Tough Tube, we recommend 275 or less for continuous use. It technically can go higher, but 275 is what we feel is a safe rating for it because you're not getting into like the crazy off-gassing territory and degradation of the tube. And that's what we've tested up to is 275 for months on end where it doesn't degrade. Siraj, can I use an old Android phone like a Raspberry Pi for Octoprint? I mean, it's probably possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. Go buy a Raspberry Pi. That's the recommended way to do it. Let's see here. Man, we're already almost at 3 o'clock. You guys have been keeping me pretty busy with the questions today. I appreciate it. Sam is asking, I already have a glass bed. Is it worth it to get the Easy Flex system, and what do I need to get? I personally think that they're worth it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the chat would agree with me. This is one of those things that once you go to it, you're going to want it on every printer. So that's the only thing I want to warn you about. I'm not joking because I had it on a couple machines and then I used them and I was like, well, this is going on every other machine in my office. So this is a 410 plate and this is this one's a little scuffed up. It's been floating around here for a little bit, but these are nice. You just need the plate, okay, and the magnet. So the magnet gets stuck to the bed. And this is literally a bed. So this is the magnet. You stick it to the bed directly onto the aluminum plate. And when you use it, you literally just take it, put it on there, and it sticks down. Just like that. And you can see they're pretty damn strong. Like I'm pulling that up. If I give it a little more, but anyways, magnet and plate, that's it. Randomly has a bed. This is for Bertha. That's why I have this here. Yeah. But, so, the two surface options we have is the smooth PEI, which is actually a sheet that's pre-applied on here. So, unlike other companies, we don't make you apply your own sheet. They're pre-applied, which I think is a very big selling point. And then we also have the texture. I know I have a texture floating around in here. Where's my textured? Oh, you know what? Nope, that's smooth. My one machine, I do have mostly the smooth ones on my machine because that's what we had for the longest time. The textured gives it a finish like this. So the textured's on my Ender 3 Plus or Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 Plus. That's the kind of finish you get with the textured. So It's kind of neat. It's a personal preference. And then, like, this was printed on the smooth. You can see here, kind of like a matte finish. This bed that was printed on is a little bit marked up. You can see it's kind of a matte finish. I haven't cleaned this bed in a while. You can see my old prints on it. But it gives you, like, a smoother finish. Do I have another part here? Yeah, I do. So, like, that's the finish that you get with the smooth. So it's kind of like a matte finish there. It's not shiny, but it's not like super reflective. So slightly less smooth as glass, but yeah. I have both. I use my Ender 3 a lot, so I got the textured on there, I got the smooth on the others. I also can't justify grabbing and stealing more plates, so once my smooths get all dinged up, I'll probably put some more textures on there. And I recently sold Doug, my brother Tuppet Waffle, in the chat, the Sunlow S8, which had the texture, and he was like, I don't know if I like the texture. Now he loves the texture. So, yeah. But, David, is the magnet strong to use a sheet on each side? Yeah, you can put a sheet on the back side of the plate. It will work just fine. Like, if you look here, and to get that off the magnet, it's just blank. So it's just a blank sheet. So PEI, nothing. And the textures are like this too. So just like that. I like my own products. I use them. I drink the Kool-Aid. I drink my own Kool-Aid. All right, let's go back up in the chat here. 3D printing painting, Jerry. Hi, Tim. Is it possible to remove the ribbon cable from the Sierra 10 Max and wire like normal? I have a gantry off a Sierra 10 Max installed on S5, extruder filament sensor, run out, etc. I mean, yeah, you can do whatever you want to the printer. It's just how much time and effort do you want to put into it? You would literally just have to get all the wiring, run it all, crimp whatever you need to crimp, solder whatever you need to solder. You could do it. I don't have like buy this, buy that to do it. But yeah, you absolutely can do it. It's just make sure you have the wire and stuff. I actually just ordered an assortment of 100-foot spools of wire. I got 18 gauge, 20 gauge, and 22 gauge, and they're two paired of red and black wire, like a combined one that you can peel apart, just to have on hand. So, and we are coming up on 3 o'clock, so I'm going to put the little line in here because I do have, it's Monday, so Mondays can't run too much longer. Because I do, like I said, I got to run to Menards to pick up stuff for Bertha because I want to get that done. Let's see here. Michael says, I'm running Noctuas on my power supply and motherboard via buck, but they're always on. Yeah, like I said, if you run a buck converter on stuff that's always on, you don't have to worry about weird issues. But in general, I'd recommend buy the voltage fans for the printer. It just gives you less room for error down the road, in case you forget that there's a buck converter there. I like to try to keep things simple. So, Llama, flex beds all the way. It's not better than like glass. It's easier, and bed slingers, it's lighter. Yes, I didn't even forget. I forgot to mention that. Even with, like, especially on the bigger machines, even with the magnet and a steel plate, the flex plates, the flex system with the magnet and stuff usually ends up being less than glass. So, which means less ringing. Yep, there we go. People liking the flex plates. I told you, it's not just me. Like I said, the policy around here is if I won't use it on my machines, I'm not going to sell it to you guys, and that holds true to everything. So, I love the flex plates. Like I said, it's one of those things. Once you get your hands on it, you start using it, you're gonna be like, God damn it, I want it for all my printers. And then you're buying more flex plates. Good for us, bad for your wallet. What the heck size of a plate is that for Bertha? Bertha uses, this is our 410 by 410 plate. Bertha's bed is actually 400 by 400, but it doesn't matter. It's just going to hang over a little bit. And this is the thing too. If you guys don't see your printer listed, or like you're like, man, I got a 230 by 230 bed. but you only have a 235 plate. Measure the distance between your gantry, so between your uprights. And what I mean by that, I'll show you on Bertha. So measure the distance between here and see if the plate will clear it, because you can use a slightly larger plate as long as it will physically fit between your uprights here. So even though this is physically a little bit bigger than the bed, it doesn't matter. Having like even 10 millimeters or even 15 millimeters hanging off on every side is not going to matter. You're not going to be able to print out it anyway, so just a little tip there. So if we have a size and you're like, oh, it's so close to my printer size, but it's not the exact one, you can go up a size as long as that plate will clear between your gantry uprights. So, and the size that we have listed for the plates are the actual physical size of the plates. So, hey, Tim, do you guys sell the plates? Do you have an online store? Yes, we do. There we go. I just posted a link. There you go. th3dstore.com. They're called the Easy Flex. All right, let me go back to here. Bertha. Waffle just bought 6 PoE gig breakouts. Awesome. I love the gig PoE. Yeah, if you guys are nerds, you have Raspberry Pi setups. I use them for not just my Octoprint setups, but I got some home automation Raspberry Pis. You can get little adapters. Oh, they're right here. Look at it. I just have everything floating around here. I actually got a couple of them. Look at this. These things are awesome. And here's the thing. If you get them and you have a Pi 3B plus or higher, so 3B plus or 3B, or 3B plus or 4B, you need to get the gigabit ones. But these little guys here, you can see I've got a couple different brands here. They're all rebranded Chinese stuff. This is a good company. I've had good luck with this brand. Envision. These are from Amazon. If you have a PoE switch, you put your network cable in here, and then you get a 5-volt output and a network jack. And now I do want to note that these are usually rated for 2.4 amps. I have not had these trigger the Raspberry Pi low power detection unless the module was defective. So we use these in our print farm. And like I said, your Raspberry Pi is usually like 3 amp power supplies. But in my experience for Octoprint, these actually work really well. And what this allows you to do is instead of having to power the Pi off of your printer or off of an AC adapter, you can just use this. And you can see here, I use this one for testing. So this is actually a micro, but I have a little micro to USB-C. And they do make these in native USB-C, so you don't have to use an adapter plug. And they also make them in micro USB. So if you have a PoE switch, you can power your Pis off of that. Highly, highly recommended. They make deploying Raspberry Pi devices so much easier. If you're a home automation person too, like I am, it's really good. So like I have a Raspberry Pi 4 running off one of those that's a USB-C one, and it just powers itself off the network. So it's really nice too, because if I need to reboot the Pi, I just bounce the port on the switch and it causes the Pi to reboot. Like if it's a hard lock situation where I need a power cycle, that's also nice. Nadav, I do think we have some B stock flex plates. You can email the streams at th3dstudio.com. And just do know, if you guys do email us about like B stock flex plates, which are like, that's what this is. The small scratches were from me. I didn't realize it fell flat on the floor, but like this one was B stocked for this little blemish right here. And like, you can kind of feel it, but it's not going to affect the use of the plate. So that's what our B stock stuff is. It's not listed on the website. It's more of a, hey, do you have this size? But if you're okay, we do at least 30% off of whatever the retail price is. So if we have the size, don't be like, what size do you have? Let us know what size you're looking for. But Aaron will usually get back to you guys in a couple of days. So how do I deep clean the Easy Flex? IPA. IPA on a rag or a paper towel. Wipe it down. You can also use acetone too, but I usually use IPA. It's a little less harsh on your sinuses. But this is real PEI, and acetone will not dissolve the real PEI. Do not use acetone on our Easy Mats. Only use IPA on the Easy Mat. The Easy Mat is the black polycarbonate mat that we sell. Toby Phillips, can you run more than one printer from Octoprint? Yes, it's possible. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not. We have like 40 plus machines connected. Every single machine has its own Pi. And the official Octoprint maintainer, Gina, does not recommend you run multiple printers off of one Pi. So follow her directions. Do not do it. Just buy another Pi. It will, like, let me put it this way. The amount of time you will put into it to get it working with the two Pis, and then the time you're going to have to put into it to keep it working versus just buying another Pi, you might as well have just bought another Pi to begin with, because your time is valuable. Dominic, is the PI replaceable on the textured? Sadly not. The textured is actually, like, this is the smooth, but the textured version is actually baked on here. But it's a very durable surface. The only thing is, if obviously you gouge your nozzle into it, you can't replace it. But what you could do is you could use the rear side to put on a PEI sheet. We normally stock the PEI sheets alone up to different sizes, but we're out of stock on most of them right now. We're waiting on another order. But I would recommend just putting something else on the back for the textured ones. These are technically a consumable item. But because of the nature it's baked on, it's actually the PEI coating to give it that textured look is baked on. Would highly recommend that. So, oh, look at Joel's here. PoE for Raspberry Pi is a fantastic idea. I agree. It's what we run here. Like I said, little adapters. And like I said, make sure, just, even if you have a Pi 3B, just buy the gigabit ones, because what I found is that the ones that are only 10100, which you still find those on there, they will not work. There's weird compatibility issue with the Pi 3B Plus and the 4s where they will not work at even 100 megabits with the 100 megabit injectors. And I found that's true with across all brands of these PoE injectors. So just buy the gigabit ones if you guys are going to buy PoE injectors. These are under $20 a piece. I think at one point we got 4 of them and it was like $46, so they're not that expensive. But for a convenience factor, if you have a PoE switch, which, if you guys don't know, PoE stands for Power over Ethernet. That means, like, you can plug a device in. Like, I've got a desk phone here. It pulls power from my network switch. So, and you can get PoE, switches for relatively cheap these days. You can get like a basic, like, 16 port or 24 port one for $100 to $200. So, let's see here. I will check. There's one more. Here. We'll just cut this off here since I do have a couple more minutes. There we go. That's the final cutoff. Final cutoff. Okay. Andre said, I saw the Bale touch not working correctly. I had to add the Z-axis mod to the Sierra S Pro. My new issues, I'm getting ghosting and ringing. Any tips? And could it be from the vibration? Drop your acceleration and jerk settings down on the firmware. If you have the stock LCD, you're probably not going to be able to modify those. You'd have to send it over G-code or modify it in the firmware and then re-upload the firmware to the machine. All right, there were 2 other questions. There were 2 good questions. So, PoE injector would be great for Pi. Does a Pi 4 support PoE? It doesn't. It has nothing to do with the Pi. All these adapters are doing is giving you a 5 volt, 2.4, 2.5 amp output. Like I said, and Top It Waffles asking thoughts on the PoE for Pi 4 when PoE won't do over 2.5 amps. Like I said, Raspberry Pis officially recommend 3 amps, but I have Pi 4s running here off of these adapters that only put out 2.4 to 2.5 amps, and they've been fine. I could see if you're doing something very heavily loading the CPU that it could trigger the Pi's low voltage error, but I've got a Pi 4 on my Sierra 10S over here with the PoE splitter, no issues. The Ender 5 Plus, PoE splitter, no issues. I've got another Pi in the house running my Z-Wave controller, no issues. I've got one in the basement just running some utility stuff. Again, no issues. So, in my experience, they've been fine, but I could see if you're using it in a use case scenario, like Octoprint's not a very heavy load application for a Pi 4, but I could see if you're running a heavier load application on a Pi 4 that it could trigger the low voltage warning. I have not had issues with it, so, use it at your own risk, but we've been using PoE splitters on our Pis and our print farm and my printers and stuff for years with no problems. So, and it makes it really convenient to power your Pis because you're already running a network cable to them. I highly recommend you hardwire in general with your network. If you can hardwire it, you should hardwire it. Try not to do too much stuff over Wi-Fi. Especially on the Pis. Their antennas are so tiny, they don't get very good signal anyways. I've got a network switch in the top of these shelves here, and I also have one under my desk. Network switches are very cheap now, and they're only getting cheaper. So you can also find, if you want big switches with a lot of ports and PoE, I've picked up 48 port PoE switches that are, you know, probably 8 to 10 years old, for less than $100. So if you look around, especially on the used market, you can get PoE switches that are very cheap. So anyways, it's now 3:10. I have to get going. I got to go to Menards and pick up my installation for Bertha's bed because I got to get that done before I can move forward with the rest of the build. So I'm going to do that, get the installation put on there, put a new thermistor on there. I hope you guys... oh yeah, that's a good thing, really quick. Power line over Ethernet over power line adapters. I have used those and they're great for in a pinch, but they're not good if the circuits are on separate phases. So in your electrical panel, you've got your one line, your other line, and then your neutral. For circuits that are on the same side of your panel, the power line Ethernet adapters work great. But for ones that are not, I've had issues with them. But they're really good if you need a hardwired. I would, if I had power line, if my only options were power line Ethernet adapters or Wi-Fi, I would go with a power line Ethernet adapter. I have used them. Those are also very inexpensive. And in my opinion, I think they're a little more reliable than Wi-Fi even. So anyways, we're going to actually wrap this up. You guys know me. I could keep talking, but I have a bunch of other stuff that needs to get done today, so I can't, unfortunately. Next stream will be tomorrow. Oh no, unless Aaron, hang on. Aaron wants to do the Ender 6 live stream tonight, so we'll see if he still wants to do that. I'll see where he is at. So, but the Ender 6 will be happening this week, and I'm going to be doing Bertha tomorrow, and it will be an afternoon evening stream. It will not be early, but it's also not going to be super late. So, but I have to go pick up the parts for Bertha. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm trying to schedule a bunch of different stuff, but I do have a meeting coming up that I need to get to. So, appreciate everybody that stopped by. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy printing.